So anybody who works out has pretty much had knee pain at some point in their life. Specifically today, we're going to talk about knee pain with squatting, which if you're a power athlete or a bodybuilder or a CrossFit athlete, most likely you've had some knee pain when you're squatting. So the topic behind this video is how do we continue to work out or work around this knee pain? And in this video, I'm going to give you three main principles to kind of help guide you through this process. One option that I'm not going to include is to do nothing. That's to continue to keep squatting and have pain. And if you want to choose that option, well, then you probably wouldn't be watching this video. So we're going to talk about some other options and some other principles that we have to kind of help you work around that knee pain while squatting. And so we're going to talk about these three principles. They're in no specific order, and it's not just A, B, or C thing. A lot of times you can combine one or more of these principles to kind of help you get the stimulus you're still looking for while still being able to work out. The first principle is going to be altering your tempo or your load. I kind of put these two together because a lot of times if you alter your tempo, then you're going to have to alter your load. And when I talk about tempo, I don't necessarily mean we're going to try to go faster or more explosive. What we're going to do is we're going to slow you down a little bit. We're going to start those tempos and bring them back. So if you think about your traditional squat, you're just going down and up, not really pausing at the bottom or not really controlling your descent or ascent. You're just going for it. We're going to slow you down. What specifically I like to do a lot of times is have a 2 or 3 second eccentric. So in that lowering phase, it's going to be 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, and then the same thing on the way up, 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000. And what that's doing is essentially it's kind of controlling the amount of weight that you can do. It's kind of my way of tricking athletes to thinking, okay, we're getting different stimulus. It's really challenging. It's very tough, but there's no way you can load that with the same amount of weight that you've been squatting previously. And so if a higher weight is giving you issues, this is a way of forcing you to kind of lower your weight, control your reps, and really just focus on form and then also the time under tension. This is specifically awesome for tendinopathies. We know that tendons really like load, and so these eccentric portion, that lowering portion of the squat, is really beneficial for tendon health. And so you might see things drawn up in programming like 3-0-x-0, and what that means is 3 seconds down, nothing at the bottom, explode up, and 0. And so an example for what I kind of do with tendinopathy, a lot of times I'll do 3-0-3-0, where 3 seconds down and 3 seconds up, and not having any rest between it. I tell you what, if you've never done that before, it is incredibly challenging. The next principle is going to be altering our movement. I know that might sound like heresy to some people, especially powerlifters who the big three is everything. But if you're specifically not a powerlifter, but even if you are a powerlifter, and we got to work around this knee pain, altering your choice of squat can be really helpful. A lot of times people think about the traditional back squat, the high bar or the low bar, and they think that's pretty much all there is. And they're not wrong in that it's an awesome exercise. I love doing it, but it gets me into trouble sometimes too. And so I have to kind of work around that, think about what are some other ways I can do a squat-based pattern and still get a very similar stimulus that I'm looking for. And so sometimes it's just a matter of overuse. We've been doing the same squat pattern time after time after time, and eventually this cumulative load can sometimes lead to some issues. And so what I'm thinking here when I'm prescribing this is that what gets a similar squat pattern but loads the tissues differently? And we have lots of different options for that. So if you are doing high bar, you can try low bar or vice versa. You can also think about front squat. You can think about box squat. You can think about, honestly, lunges, step-ups, all these things that are still working a lot of the musculature that you normally work in squats, just in a different way. And the goal here isn't to take those away entirely. Obviously, if you're in a very specific strength sport like powerlifting, then you're going to have to get to those movements eventually. But in the meantime, whether it's an off season or for working on this injury, having a variety of movement patterns is a good thing actually in the long run. It gives you some variety, it spices up your training, and hopefully it kind of moves around the muscles that you're using in terms of you're not going to use the exact same muscle recruitment pattern with a back squat that you would in the front squat, that you would in a box squat, and all those things. So it's really just kind of moving things around so we're not overusing one specific pattern. And finally, one last thing you can do is you can alter your range of motion. I know that, once again, this sounds like heresy when you see someone doing quarter squats, but at the end of the day, sometimes that's what we need to take a break from a painful position in our squat. A lot of times that pain comes when we're getting closer to 90 degrees or below. That's where we have a lot of the stress in the patellofemoral joint. But sometimes if we're up above that at a 45 degree or even above that, we don't feel as much pain. And so I know sometimes it can be a joke in the weightlifting community that people doing quarter squats aren't doing real squats. But first of all, unless your sport has specific requirements for squat depth, like powerlifting, then it literally doesn't matter how you squat. If you're training for life, if you're training because you like training, there is no judge, there is no jury. At the end of the day, unless you're in a power sport like powerlifting, where squat depth is actually crucial to judging it, then there is no real right squat length. People make the argument of maximum depth leads to maximum muscle recruitment, yada, 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 all that stuff. But at the end of the day, if you're not training for a sport, train the way you want to train. Train the way that gives you the good stimulus and the good results you want. And so this way, altering range of motion is a way that we can do that. And maybe this looks like a quarter squat. The goal is to kind of work towards the bottom of that range of motion to where you start feeling pain and then go from there and kind of stay above that pain threshold. But, if the first week it's 45 and then we work to, 60, then 80, and then getting to 90 and below, that's great. Sometimes we just need to take a step back to eventually take 2 steps forward. And so in conclusion, there's so many ways you can work your legs. And it'd be a shame to just do the same movement over and over and over again. Strength is specific, and we understand that if you need to barbell back squat to perform well in your powerlifting meet, then yeah, you've got a barbell back squat. If, there's certain movements in the CrossFit Games or the CrossFit Open that you have to do, yeah, we have to do that. But that doesn't mean in your training we can't vary things up and have some diversity in our movement patterns. So you can still get an awesome workout while not necessarily training your traditional squat pattern. And at the end of the day, it's really about keeping you healthy and keeping you moving. And a combination of one or all 3 of these principles might be the ticket to help you work around some injuries so you can continue to train and progress, and just taking some time off from that one specific movement pattern, although it might be painful for you to do, might help you be healthier and have success in the long run. Thanks so much for watching this video. I really, truly appreciate it. If you found this helpful, it'd be awesome if you could share it with a friend or maybe share it with someone who's struggling with some knee pain.